Hey guys, my name is Tommy. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're up for another round of min-maxing for fun and profit, where we remind both players and GMs alike that if it ain't broke, find ways to make it broke, and if it is broke, enjoy it while you can, because somebody's gonna come, rain on your parade, and errata it sooner or later. Today we're talking about armor class and how to make those numbers shoot into the stratosphere. Let's dive right in. So one thing I want to specify before we get too deep in here is that this is not a video on how to make a tank type character, nor is there really a way to play an efficient tank type class in the Pathfinder role-playing game. Contrary to other things like big MMOs like WoW, there really isn't a way to make something specifically attack you to generate threats, things like that. Sure, you have spells like Compel Hostility and things like that, but ultimately, that still requires a will save and won't be effective on things like undead, constructs, things that are immune to mind-affecting effects. This video is all about the individual player and how to make you yourself as buffed as you can. Now, for the purposes of my own curiosity and to drive a point home, we're going to compare two different types of heavy armor class characters in this video. On the one hand, we're going to have a character in heavy armor using 2 shields, the classic turtle type character that's just covered in a bunch of armor. On the other hand, we're going to be using somebody who uses as many ability scores as he can to increase his armor class while not encumbering himself with all this big heavy stuff. Now, the heavy armored character, we're not going to put too much of a microscope under because he's pretty straightforward. You don't need to worry about your race, your stats, things like that. We're just going to pretend he's a fighter who has 2 tower shields and heavy armor. For our other character, there's 3 stats we need to prioritize above everything else. Dexterity, intelligence, and charisma are what we need to get our armor class as high as we can. That's right, kids. When your mama said use your head, she actually meant to block with. Our optimized armor class character is going to be a mix of 4 different classes. 16 levels of our primary class, and 4 levels in 3 different classes, 1 double dip and 2 single dips. Lately, these 3 classes that I'm dipping, and double dipping here, I've put on almost all of the characters I've played in games, and I haven't really looked back. Our primary class is going to be the Magus archetype Kensai. At first level, a Kensai gets an ability called Canny Defense, just like the Duelist prestige class, but at first level. Canny Defense reads, when wearing light or no armor and not using a shield, the Duelist, or Kensai in our case, adds 1 point of intelligence, if any, per Duelist/Kensai class level as a dodge bonus to armor class while wielding a melee weapon. If a duelist is caught flat-footed or otherwise denied her dexterity bonus, she also loses this bonus. So the goal with this character is to get our intelligence bonus as high as possible, because we get to throw that straight into our touch armor class and our base armor class. We will be taking 1 level of the monk archetype Scaled Fist. Now, we could just take a vanilla monk level, but Scaled Fist stacks really well with a lot of the other classes we'll be mixing in here. When unarmored and unencumbered, a monk adds their wisdom bonus, if any, to their armor class. This applies against touch attacks when the monk is flat-footed, as long as he's not immobilized, helpless, wearing armor, wearing a shield, or carrying too much, he gets to add his wisdom to his armor class. The Scaled Fist monk, instead of wisdom, adds his charisma bonus to armor class. And flavor-wise, you get to say you went to something like the Throat of the World and trained with Parthenax. It's 2011 all over again. Now, why charisma instead of wisdom, you might ask? I'll give you 2 reasons. One reason, 1 level of paladin. The second reason, a 2nd level of paladin. The thing about having a really high armor class is that a competent GM is going to find other ways to do damage to you. And usually, if he can't hit you, he's going to start targeting your fortitude, reflex, and or will saves. 2 paladin levels means we get an ability called Divine Grace, which says we add our charisma modifier to our saving throws. Like our intelligence, our goal with this character is to get our charisma modifier as high up into the stratosphere as possible so we can add it to our saving throws, our armor class, and be super pretty while doing it. This combined with our intelligence and, as normal, our dexterity means we are adding not 1, not 2, but 3 different ability scores into our armor class. Our other one level class dip will be a Swashbuckler. And this is a class that you don't necessarily have to take a level in. If you don't think it's going to be useful in your meta, or you just really don't want to, that's fine. However, I've found in a lot of games, both as a GM and as a player, that the ability Opportune, Parry, and Riposte is incredibly powerful. A Swashbuckler gets this at first level, and since we're already prioritizing our charisma modifier alone will be enough to get us plenty of panache points to get mileage out of this, knowing that a Swashbuckler regains panache points by killing or critting the bad guys. If we make sure we have something like a keen katana, a keen rapier, something like that crits 15 to 20, aka 25% of the time, it stands to reason, unless that contract with Asmodeus has come up and you're rolling terribly, you're going to regenerate your panache points. Opportune Parry and Riposte says when an opponent makes a melee attack against you, you spend 1 panache point and expend a use of an attack of opportunity to try to parry the attack. The opponent makes an attack roll, you make an attack roll as if you were making an attack of opportunity with a -2 penalty for each size category bigger that your opponent is. If your attack roll is higher than his, the attack doesn't hit. The icing on the cake here is, as an immediate action, you can make another attack against this guy. You're denying your opponent his action economy and getting more attacks by hitting him on his turn as well as on your turn. But that's not necessarily what we're here to talk about. What we're here to talk about is it doesn't matter how high you make your numbers, your GM can always give the bad guys a uber profane bonus to attack rolls, target your touch armor class, etc., etc., etc. Your GM can do whatever they need to do by the power vested in them by Paizo Productions in the Inner Sea region to make the bad guys hit. This ability helps mitigate that, and like I said before, the extra damage to the bad guys, icing on the cake. There's a couple magic items we really need to make this build work. The most important by far is the Bracers of Armor +8. Bracers of Armor occupy the wrist slot and give you a flat armor bonus to your AC if you are not wearing armor. Eventually, when we have the gold, we're going to buy the +8 version, which is 1 armor class less than wearing plate mail, while not having any detriment to our skills due to an armor check penalty, or wearing a piece of equipment that allows us to only have a certain amount of dexterity to our armor class. Your basic full plate armor, while allowing an armor bonus of +9, only lets you have a maximum of 1 point of dexterity to your armor class. That means whether your dexterity is 12 or 2012, you only get 1 point of dexterity into your armor class. In addition, wearing full plate imposes an armor check penalty of -6 upon your character. That means for things like swim checks, acrobatics checks, things that require us to, not be encumbered by wearing a tin can, we take a -6 on that roll. Even with something like a mithril full plate of speed, we can only get that max dex bonus from 1 up to 3. We're really selling ourselves short here, in my opinion. That's why, by and large, I feel that heavy armor is a trap. There's a couple items necessary to the build, in addition to the Bracers of Armor, that we need to make this character shine. They are the Ring of Protection and Amulet of Natural Armor +5. These items are considered by and large staples. Every single solitary character in the game should at least use their ring slot for the Ring of Protection, and if they don't need something like an Amulet of Mighty Fists, their next slot should be an Amulet of Natural Armor +5. In addition, we also spend the money to put a +5 enhancement bonus on whatever clothes we happen to be wearing. This is a little cheesy and some GMs may have a problem with it. However, the average monk, sorcerer, wizard, etc. is probably doing this anyway. There's no reason we shouldn't either. Now, Pathfinder has a lot of races with bonuses to dexterity and intelligence, or dexterity and charisma. For the purposes of this video, partially because in the last video I made, I kind of got a little attached to him, we're going to stat this guy out on a rat folk. Small characters get a +1 size bonus to their armor class, and in a game of stacking a bunch of numbers together to make a big number, an extra +1's not going to hurt anything. The bonus to dexterity and intelligence, however, is what we're here for, as those are our two most important ability scores. At 20th level, our rat folk with the stat roll of 18 +2 racial to make it 20, plus our Tome of Clear Thought +5 and our Headband of Mental Perfection +6, with an additional full investment from levels 4, 8, 12, 16, and 20 into our intelligence bonus, puts us at a 36 intelligence or 13 modifier. Our dexterity score, also to 20 with 18 plus 2 racial, plus a manual of quickness of action and a belt of physical perfection, puts us at 31 dex or a 10 modifier. An 18 charisma plus the tome of leadership and understanding and that same headband that we've been wearing for our intelligence sets us at 29 charisma with a 9 modifier. At the end of the day, we have a base armor class of 10, plus 1 size bonus, plus 8 armor from our bracers of armor, a plus 13 dodge bonus from our intelligence, a plus 5 deflection from our ring of protection, a plus 5 natural armor bonus from our amulet of natural armor, plus 10 dexterity, plus 9 charisma, and plus 5 enhancement bonus on whatever clothes we're wearing, equals an armor class of 66. This is with no shield, no full plate, not even a chain shirt, not even like a cardboard box for us to cover behind. Our flat-footed and touch armor classes drop quite a bit. However, they end up at a 43 flat-footed or a 48 touch AC. I think it's important to note here that our touch armor class is higher than our flat-footed armor class. That almost never happens, and some of the easiest ways to attack a player is to target their touch with something like Scorching Ray. The touch armor class on most things is often super low. Here, yeah, it's way lower than our base armor class, but it's still not our lowest, and it's still pretty high. As with every other build, I compare my stats versus a CR30 encounter, and in this case, we're comparing our character to the Great Old One Cthulhu. He must literally roll a critical hit to harm us. If he does, we get around this with the heavy fortification enchantment put on our clothing, which makes for a 75% chance for that critical hit to fail, resulting in normal damage. However, this is still a 1 in 20 chance, a 5% chance that this guy even gets damage through on us. And if your GM responds with some shenanigans, as I have done before against builds like this, to get damage in, we have opportune parried riposte. Yes, we're taking an egg, but we do have a chance to knock his claw aside and then stab him in the ankle because we are small and he is colossal. Now let's compare these numbers to the classic full plate fighter paladin kind of guy carrying into battle a tower shield on each arm. Full plate, as said before, is a plus 9 armor bonus to AC with a plus 5 enhancement bonus. That's a total of 14. 2 plus 5 tower shields with a total shield bonus of 9 each means that if I'm carrying 2 tower shields into battle, I add plus 18 to my armor class. With the Ring of Protection / Amulet of Natural Armor, staples for everybody, slapping on that plus 10, we're looking pretty good. However, the maximum dexterity allowed with Mithril Tower Shields is 4. The maximum dexterity allowed with Mithril Full Plate is 3. That means, as I said before, whether our dexterity is 16 or 1,016,000, we only get to add those 3 points from our dexterity to our armor class. After all the math, our total armor class comes out to 56. Our flat-footed comes out to 53, which doesn't sound too bad. However, where we start to be really terrible is our touch armor class, which lands at a whoppingly low 19. When I see numbers like this that are coming out pretty much the same, I'm a big fan of saying that the player should do what the player wants. However, this video is the exception. I think carrying 2 tower shields into battle might be fun, but it severely limits your options in ways that the other build, the kensai / paladin / swashbuckler / scaled fist, does not. Kensai is a really fun class to play in and of itself, and Magi are incredibly strong. Spell Strike is a wonderful ability. Tack onto that Opportune Parry and Riposte, Smite Evil. What comes out is that class is not only better in terms of armor class, but in combat has way more options than the Turtle. In this one's humble opinion, if you want to play something with a really high armor class, look away from the classes that are wearing heavy armor and look to a build something like this. This build omits feats like dodge that would make our armor class go even higher, because at this point we've already determined that endgame bosses have to critically hit to harm us. However, these numbers can go even higher. If you guys have ever done it before, if you have without GM shenanigans or template stacking or fun things of that nature, got those numbers even higher, I encourage you to share them in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos, guys. Next optimization video comes out next Wednesday.